IdeaDrop exists to give you the way out. Stop being a slave in your 9 to 5 and join us on a mission to uncover the dime a dozen ideas. You just have to pick one and then quit your day job into that idea. I don't know. Let's try.
Just that easy.
You got one for me? It's just that easy.
That easy. It's not just that easy. Yeah, I'll start with one.
I wish.
So I just drove across the country recently, and prior to driving across the country, I had to fly, not my children, but my cats. I flew my cats from California to Pennsylvania, and it was awful because my cat, at one point pooped inside the carrier, inside the plane, and so I'm in the bathroom, in the sink, trying to clean this cat. This cat, obviously, I'm sure is having the worst day
On
of
the
its
plane,
life.
like while in the sky.
No, I waited till I got to Chicago, so I'm walking through O'Hare. I'm like trucking through O'Hare, trying to find
Wait,
a
hold
bathroom.
on. Are the cats with you on the plane, or are they under the plane?
No, they're with me. I wouldn't do the under the plane. That scares me too much. I've just heard too many horror stories. No, they're with me under the seat.
I also just now learned that you're a cat lady, so carry on.
I'm a cat lady.
Yeah.
Actually, I have one in the chair right next to me. So we drugged our cats because that's what good people do. And my cat did not respond well to the drugs.
Checks
But
out.
here's what I think we should do. I think we should make drugs way more accessible to cats. We have catnip, but I think there should be a lot more NyQuil for cats because just like cats, or just like humans, cats could be on a sleep schedule, and why not make that happen? So I think we should do NyQuil for cats, make it way more commercially available, and it'd be pretty fun. What do you think? Good idea, bad
NyQuil
idea?
for cats.
Yeah.
I do think you could slap a landing page up and test that one really easy. The pet market is massive. It is absolutely massive. I talked to a pet food company owner who was doing millions of dollars through one campaign of just a sad story video about how your dog is prematurely getting, teeth rotting and cancer and all these things, but happy, organic, safe foods keep your dog for another 5 years, and those memories are not replaceable. So that's why you should spend double on your dog food. Cats are the same.
I like this idea. I think it would work. I think it would sell. I do think that the market would be really competitive because there are other products like it, like pet CBD, that's supposed to
Is
keep
there really?
them down. But yeah, there really is. As a matter of fact, my wife's family, they all have freaked out dogs, and so every year at the 4th of July, they all drug their dogs because they
That's
freak out
funny.
over
Oh my gosh.
fireworks. So
I should really just
fun
be
fact-
dipping into the
Took
dog
those-
market, actually. Keep going, yeah.
Yeah, well, so fun fact about the dog market. Did you know that there is a very profitable, highly expensive process for storing dog semen?
I mean,
No, didn't
checks
know that.
out.
But tell me why.
Yeah,
He's
so-
selling puppies $2,000 each. I mean, so the semen must be worth.
Literally, you can, if you've got a prize, and I learned this recently. If you've got a prized dog, like it's got the accolades or it's a show dog or whatever, you can extract said dog semen, and it's shipped to a cold storage facility in Portland, Oregon. Stay weird, Portland. And those vials of doggy jizz sell for $2,000 to $3,000 a vial. So fun fact.
Oh my
everybody,
gosh.
Fun fact.
Oh my goodness,
Yeah.
$3,000. But then you have to put it in another dog. That whole process is probably $10,000, right?
Yeah,
Beginning
I
to
got to imagine. I mean, I'm not well versed in the full end-to-end process. I did learn quite a bit about the extraction process, which is quite
Great.
disturbing and hilarious.
How did I do it? I feel bad asking.
Well,
but I really wanna know.
there's literally a person at a veterinarian office that specializes in this. And the person who told me about this story has been doing this for so long that this is great content. The person who told me about this has been doing this for so long with his show dog or his prize winning dog that now he goes to the veterinarian, and when the lady who does the extraction comes out, he says that he literally locks up and his teeth start chattering like he knows, like he's going to the doggy jerk tank. And he gets real excited when he sees her, and that's the process by which they
Nope.
they do
Nope.
Oh
Nope.
my gosh.
Nope.
This is a true
So-
story. I'm not making this up. This is a true story from somebody I know who does this firsthand and then ships it to Portland.
Dude,
First
humans are
hand.
weird. So
Anyway.
that like started with a logical series of events like, oh, we could do this. Oh, we could do this. Oh, this should be easier. And then we ended up there. It's like if you just take a step back and you think, I'm jerking off dogs for a living, maybe you ought to
That's the
be
crazy part. Is like this has got to be like a veterinarian assistant. She's making like $18 an hour, and like she wakes up one day and she's like, "What?" Like, or people are like, "What do you do for a living?" She's like veterinarian assistant, but in her heart, she's like, "I'm a
She's
dirty massage
depressed.
parlor for
Yep.
dogs."
Dude.
This is equivalent to when Dustin used to haul cadavers. This is like that.
Yeah,
stuff.
did
was
that?
a good time. Yeah, I definitely did that. I did that for.
Hey,
I went.
Dustin, Joey died. Can you go pick him up for $100?
I never knew. Well, I did know the name. I knew everything.
How
Name,
much you get
social,
paid
everything.
per body?
Well, that was the best part. It was commission based. So, if you want to go and pump the market a little bit, you can do what you need to do. But so we would get paid. This was back in 2009. I would get paid $30 a body plus $15 an hour, and I'd take my time. So I'd get an hour and a half to go pick up a dead body. So Uncle Joe passes away. I go to the house.
It was a messy one, guys. It was a messy one.
I have
So-
so many questions.
Yeah, a
Go
lot of people
for
do.
it.
The problem is, okay, here's the thing. Just like the lady who pleasures dogs for a living, I imagine that girl probably went into a conversation one day and was like, hey, this is what I do. And everybody was like, I don't really want to talk to you. So that happened to me. And so I realized, I'm just going to stop doing this. This is a
I
this
should
is a
stop
bad
talking
business.
about this.
Yeah,
I should
it's-
stop talking about this.
Well, it's you either get one of two reactions. People are like, oh my gosh, I'm interested. Or they're like, you're gross. There's something wrong with you. And
Okay, so not
terrible.
to derail entirely, but I heard about a new business that exists here in Redding, California. I don't think it's off the ground yet, but it is off the ground in other markets, but it's launching here. Have you heard of the hydro cremation process?
no.
So along the lines of gross body stuff, there's a process. I think it's called hydrocremation or something to that effect, where they literally liquefy
They power wash your body into dust.
into sludge. And so my question was, where does the sludge go? And they go, it's considered legally, like according to the waste management and health safety people, it's considered waste, human waste. And so it goes down the sewer drain. Wow. Isn't that crazy?
I'm not into
Let's
that.
just
I'm not into that.
wow. We got to pull up, guys. So, welcome to IdeaDrop, the show that's not always this morbid. It often talks about the issues with adoption. That was yesterday. So
Yeah.
So
we're
so
on a rough
really-
we're on a rough
yeah.
ride right now.
So
but I think the
what-
point is that there's a lot of money to be made in very dark places.
Yeah, actually,
Oh my
shitty
gosh.
jobs that other people don't want to do obviously makes tons of money.
So is this
right?
the Dark Places episode? I mean, we could keep going. We could keep the Dark
I
Places
think I'm
episode.
out of dark place money, but I'm happy to weigh in on other ideas.
I don't okay. Here was an interesting one. I watched a real estate broker do a flip to himself and just swap out the investors. And it's some validity in his methodology here, but there is a like on adoption on yesterday's episode we might never air. There's a ethical way to do this and an unethical way to do this. And what he was doing was literally locking down a commercial property that was absolutely just a skeleton and dust. It needs a complete engineering overhaul, not just a renovation. And he would lock it down on auction or whatever with some other people's money, OPM. And then he would sell that entity entirely that owned the asset to another group of investors. And then they would do the engineering plans, the architecture, the designs, make it worth a couple $100,000 more, $300,000 more. They'd get their money out in like 90 or 120 days. And then he would flip it to himself in another entity with another group of investors who are like, oh, you already did the architecture, the engineering, you already did this whole plan, and now you got it city approved. And so now it's worth a few $100,000 more. And he kept doing this. So there's like multiple transfers of value, and every investor's only betting on the next group of investors to take them out. Does that make sense?
Yeah, it makes sense. I don't see what the ethical problem is with it. I mean, this is what people do.
Oh, the ethical problem was he didn't always disclose like the exit plan. So he didn't disclose to the investors that he was going to get paid every time this happens, like the whole plan. He
don't think he has to.
It made me squirm, man. When I talked to him, I liked aspects of it.
How
but
the story
fact that
ends?
he's like, they don't really need to know the details. And I'm like, they're just going to write you a check and you're going to give them a return. What about the one day it doesn't work? Then they didn't have the details.
That
he had
feels a little bit
also
similar
already
to
lost his
crypto.
broker-dealer license.
Oh, that's nice.
So he had
Okay,
already
well, yeah.
been,
So that's actually a really valid
and he didn't
point.
disclose that.
Yeah. So I mean, I think that sometimes this is an interesting point. I think sometimes the difference between, in some of these gray areas, the difference between like black and white and gray has more to do with the person doing it than the actual behavior itself.
Fair. That's fair. Yeah. I felt like if he disclosed, like, hey, this is what I'm going to do. I've got 5 investors in a pool ready in a syndicate, ready to exit you as soon as we get past this phase of architecture or whatever. If it was very clear and disclosed, like that would have made me feel a lot better. But anyways.
Okay, so did he try to sell you on this? Were you?
No, we were talking. I was going to do a marketing contract with him,
Oh,
so I was going to help him. Like I got into all the weeds of it because he wanted more investors, and I'm like, so you want me to get investors to take your investors out, but the product is not actually done. Like you didn't actually raise.
Yeah, I want to know what what happened long term. I want to know if the product
they
actually
pulled it off.
finished.
It worked.
It worked. They actually finished the product.
Yeah, I'm not going to use the exact numbers, but I'll tell you this. So the first one was bought for less than a house. The next group of investors got exited for double that price. The next group of investors put in something like $1 million plus or minus, maybe a little more, to do some mild renovations. And then the finish work was another phase. And ultimately, in that phase, they started actually putting tenants in the building, and then they sold it for more than 10. So
what was the turnaround time on all of this?
Oh, this happened over 8-9 years.
But like if on one round, so like I invest.
There's nothing wrong with how the project went, and he did it, and he managed it well. The problem is the ethics of disclosure. So if you already lost your broker-dealer license, and there's a court case that Kendall had to find. So it was actually my buddy Tim who found it, and we were doing this marketing project together. And he's like, dude, we can't partner with this guy. He like had all this time to tell us that he got stripped of his license in selling these types of securities. So he had to run to real estate where the securities laws are not as stringent.
I can't decide if it's ethically wrong or if it's just like kind of shisty, but it works. And it's if there was a product.
It's hard to know. I mean, obviously there's so many details, but I think it comes back to the person. Like I know a lot of people that like, let's put it this way. I know a lot of people that have had bad financial histories that are really like well, charactered people that like I would feel less weird about that type of thing with than other people who are just shysters.
Have a clean record still.
Yeah, and like are just so I mean, because nothing you've shared so far, it really causes me a ton of concern. But I think it sounds like it's more about like who it is than really what it is. Because like I don't think that there's any. I mean, there's in real estate, there's a lot of disclosure law. Like there's a lot of things that have to be disclosed. Yeah, but there's a ton of stuff that doesn't have to be disclosed. And as a matter of fact, not being a licensed real estate professional or broker or agent actually limits how much you're required to, or the
better.
line.
Yeah. So the other one that we looked at with that same guy is he was helping a wholesaler outside of, I think it was Kansas City, Missouri, flip kind of very average neighborhoods, but 20 at a time. So when they could basically do a whole block, the appraised value of the finished product would be much better than if they did one at a time. And so what they would do is do that with private money. And they wanted to pay us 10 grand, not a commission, but just a fee, a marketing fee to bring in the investor who would buy that rental property post flip. And so it's another way where they skirted like the commission laws in real estate, and they called it a marketing fee instead, but it's paid on commission for performance, but we had to write the contract differently. It just, all these little things.
That's super common though. That's super
I know,
common.
But it bothers me.
I know
but
it's
common.
Yeah, so it's because I mean, we can go down this whole road because like dude, it gets weirder than that. So in
I
the
know.
wholesale world, there
I
are
know.
guys that are wholesaling to wholesalers to wholesalers to wholesalers, then to an end buyer. It's called
Dude.
daisy chaining. And you've got like you'll end up with these transactions that are so weirdly complicated, and it's literally
The underwriters are like, wait, so where's Bobby? Like, we need to get him in here.
Yeah,
Like,
it gets really weird. To be honest, it's one of the main reasons why I try to take down my own deals. Like I don't wholesale.
Yeah.
Not because it's unethical, but it's just so freaking complicated, and you never
Yeah.
know. Like when you try to talk to, that's the other thing is like when you try to play. So if you're a wholesaler and you're trying to place a property with an end buyer, you it's really hard to know if the people you're talking to are actually an end buyer or if they're just another wholesaler trying to market it to their
that
list.
shit drives me crazy. The fact that that's hard to know blows my mind.
It's
you
crazy.
should be able, like, I would be a proponent of some type of legal punishment or whatever for lying, but lying is not illegal. That's what's crazy is lying is not illegal.
It's not really lying. It's just not disclosing what you're doing with it. Like if you're
No,
buying
people
it,
lie. People lie because there's a way to do a line of questions.
Yeah,
to where
so
they really
so
can't get around
I've
it.
literally seen because I'm on a million real estate forums and
Right.
all these things, and most of the people on these forums are like guys just getting into the industry wanting to ask questions, and I've literally seen people be like, okay, so I'm a wholesaler, I got to a real estate agent, and the agent asked me if I'm going to wholesale this deal or if I'm going to take it down myself, what do I say to them? And you'll watch like this thread of investors give like all this skirting language to
How to,
be
like,
like
language.
basically to like coach them on how to not lie, but to not really answer the question. And
So,
it's really weird.
Ultimately, this is why I'm not in real estate anymore. So I've done enough stuff in real estate to know what the options are, and I love the freaking Monopoly game of it. I love the structured math. I love the people part of it. I love finding a deal. I love adding value to the deal. I love so much about real estate. And then I look at just how people are in the industry, the way that the brokers actually are. And it becomes this thing that's difficult for me to, I guess, have the motivation that would be required to work hard enough to actually be quite successful in real estate. So I had to go run to like building other types of creative business world because it's easier to just be fully transparent with people, create a vision, and say, we're going to live or die together. We're going to fail together or we're going to succeed together. Either way, it's together. And real estate has so much like, here's my structured piece of the pie in it. It was hard for me.
Yeah, and the bigger the deals are, the more that can be true. I mean, I just got an opportunity to literally get 20% or more equity stake in a $127 million development by simply being the sponsor that provided an investor of $6 million to get the deal closed.
wait,
Dang.
20%. That's insane. Did you do it?
I mean,
We're still working on it. It's pulling $6 million into a deal like this is not exactly easy. But the point is, it's 127 million total sale out. It's probably 30 million in profit.
in equity. Yeah.
But the point is like literally, it's this crazy deal because it's like literally it's a $5 to $10 million payday that sits on the line of me just getting somebody with a lot of money to understand and say yes to this deal. And it's like it's such a crazy thing because it's literally that fast. And that's honestly part of what I love about the real estate game is like you're literally out playing Monopoly.
Yeah.
And honestly,
The deal
like,
making.
yeah, and honestly, like a lot of it is like strategic and smart and money and all these things, but a lot of it is just the luck of where the dice roll. Like, I'm
gonna win you over to private equity small business someday. It'll take me 5 years. But there is such a correlation to the way that you think and the things that you do that is so much more fun when you're having the same conversations on the cash flows and the asset value. based on a thing that can be materially improved by 10x instead of a piece of property that can be improved by 20%.
Well, yeah, and it actually won't take you 5 years. I mean, I have a goal to buy at least one business this year.
Dude, I've got 5 on my list. You can buy one.
Okay, well, let's talk. Because the other thing that's super interesting, I mean, along those lines, the thing that I'm realizing, thing I'm learning, is that because I do a lot of creative finance deals too. So like I've got four real estate transactions in escrow right now that required almost none of my own money.
That's awesome.
And so what I'm realizing is that there's a huge and this is actually a great point for your audience. There is a huge exodus of business owners coming in the next 5 years, 10 years. I mean, Boomers. I think I read the statistic recently. It's like something like 5.1 or 6.1 trillion dollars of small business value that is currently owned by boomers.
Yep.
It's going
to retire.
It's going to be the largest wealth transfer of human history. And so I got to imagine the story I heard recently was, the story of Uncle Bob the plumber. And Uncle Bob the plumber built a great plumbing business. I think it did $3 million, $4 million a year in plumbing. And old Uncle Bob's tired and wanted to get, retire and get out. And so he was just planning to close the business down. And somebody that we know went to him and said, "Hey, you're planning to close the business down. What if I buy it from you? You hold on for another 24 months to train an operator, and I pay you a multiple on your profit or on your revenue, and you actually get value in retirement. But I don't bring any cash to the table. You sell or finance this deal because you were planning on shutting it down anyways." And Uncle Bob gets a 7-figure payday that he wasn't expecting, and an added benefit to his retirement. And this person who acquired the business picked up a $3 million business with zero cash. And I'm very interested. To your point, I'm very interested in those types of transactions.
So, I'm not currently. I really like the I guess the trades for what you're describing, pool company, plumbing, whatever it is. But I'm specifically interested, the same structures. So a lot of times, like maybe some cash down plus owner financing, or some type of like a performance model after we close to see how it goes. But I'm interested in doing that with the more digital businesses that the levers to materially triple them are much more, doable. It's hard to triple a plumbing business, quickly.
Sure.
But if I buy a newsletter business and then you add a different type of marketing to it that the current operator doesn't know how to do, you can quintuple it, you can 10x it can do amazing things. And if you risk mitigate your downside, so what I'm currently high on is risk mitigating the downside. How much cash do we actually have to put in? And maximizing the potential upside on these.
Yeah, and I think that makes sense. I mean, you run a venture company, right? So you've got, this is what you do. My headspace, and maybe our powers combined, I could get there, but my headspace more on it is like, something simple, something boring, the Cody Sanchez boring business concept, right? Something boring like plumbing. A $3 million plumbing company is doing $600,000 a year in profit. Yeah. And I throw an operator in it for 150, like I'm taking $450,000 for nothing. Right. And so like that's more where like, I mean, call it a business amateur hour, but like that's where my head's at is like I'll take a $300,000.
There's nothing amateur about making an extra $450 a year.
Yeah, well, I mean, but like comparatively speaking to like the private equity guys or the venture guys, like it's just more elementary than mitigating downside, adding tech, improving on the process. It's literally just taking something that is boring and capitalizing on the fact that it was going to shut down otherwise.
Counterpoint. I think mine is way more simple because it's easier for me to hire really smart people for $80K, $120K, $150K who do all those things that you're calling complicated for me. So
certainly,
like at the end of the day, all I'm doing is hiring the right person for the right thing and going, oh, what is the right thing. And in the interviewing process of hiring people, they will tell you, oh no, I'd pull it off this way. You're like, okay, you got a job. Like, and here's your contract. So if it works.
I think the two things that me personally would be cautious with, one is I got to manage that person. Right. And also actually, now that you're saying this, I'm kind of thinking, cause one of my like core values I say all the time is I don't invest in things I don't understand.
Sure.
Which is potentially a conflict to this conversation, because your point, like I'm thinking about like these tech platforms or these SaaS platforms, or like these opportunities.
I understand people, not tech, right? I understand tech to a degree, but I'm not a developer, but I ran a development agency for 3 years. Like,
but you've got vernacular, you've got, and you come from and you come from private equity. So you've seen that process play out.
I picked that up too. Like, I don't know, like I think I agree. I don't disagree with your point for where you should make your next investment. I just also want to make it feel accessible to people of like, look, dive into the unknowns, but do it with people. That's how you get answers.
Yeah. And I think that the punchline, like for the listener, is you can get into a business that's doing 6-figure revenue, hire an operator or the smart guy to improve it, either way, and immediately replace your W-2 with a 6-figure profit or distribution. Like, I think that's like, whether you do it your way or my way, like that's the goal. That's the goal, and it's totally possible right now.
Okay, how do I do that if I have $0 liquid, but let's say a good credit score? I mean, can I finance this?
Yeah, so you missed because your tech was falling
what
apart.
the heck? Sorry.
I know.
Speaking of techies.
Yeah, so you missed the part of it, but the point that we made was that, there's like $6 trillion in business valuations owned by boomers right now. And a lot of those boomers do not have sale in their exit plan. Their exit plan is to shut the business down. So one of the opportunities that exists today is to find these boomers that are literally going, my retirement plan is to close the business down. I don't have a successor. I don't have an exit strategy. I haven't been thinking that way. Because a lot of them don't. A lot of them created awesome jobs for themselves. They never thought of it as an entrepreneur that was trying to build a business. They were just trying to create a job for themselves. And so you find those people and go, hey, you're thinking about closing down. I'll do you one better. Let me buy the business from you and you carry the note. Like, you finance it because you were going to close it down. I've got no cash in the deal. And like, could you hold on for 12, 24 months to train an operator? Like, that would be a zero cash way to get into a multi-million-dollar business that was going to essentially go away had you not found them and had the conversation.
No, that's pretty smart. That would actually be pretty simple too. You just have to be generally likable and have some old guy who doesn't know anything about this world say, yeah, I trust you with this thing that I've built over the entire...
I mean, if you go have 10 conversations, you'll find one person who's going to trust you with that.
Yeah, fair enough. And plus they want money more than nothing.
Well, and it's all, to your point, it's all framing. This becomes sales really fast.
Yeah.
It's sales. Yeah.
I mean, it's just like I had a conversation with a real estate investor the other day who's got a bunch of properties that he wants to sell or finance. And the terms he wants just don't make sense. Like, he wants 30% down.
What were the terms? Okay.
30% down. The rates were decent, like but somewhere between 5 and 6%, so that was fair.
Sure.
But he wants 30% down. He wants to carry 70% back. And I get on the phone with him, and I'm like, listen, I'm an investor. You're an investor. You know that this doesn't help anybody buy this house, right? Like, why
right.
would
I get that you have a good interest rate, but the 30, like, they would do it differently.
Yeah, like I could go get 5% conventionally from a bank. Like, why would I? This isn't helpful. And he starts going risk. And I was like, okay. And he goes,
selfish.
And he goes,
Think about him.
Yeah. And he goes, well, and I'm not going to be in second lien position, meaning, lien positions are the order in which people are paid, right? If an asset is liquidated. And I said, okay, well then let me propose this to you. We're investors, like, you get it. I get it. There's two ways that I can buy this house from you. I can buy it from you at a deep discount, 30 to 50% off market value. and I can just pay you cash and walk away from it. But I know, and you know, that you're not going to give me that type of deal because you don't need the money, and you know, and you don't, you know, you're not going to give up that much equity. So the second way I can buy this from you is in creative financing, a deal where I can get low to no cash into the deal and terms that allow me to essentially cash flow this property. So let me propose this to you. Let's flip the transaction on its head. I'll give you 70% instead of 30%. I'll give you 70% in the form of a loan from a bank, a private money lender, whoever. And then I'll give you a 30% in cash, but that cash will be held in escrow until after my loan closes and refunded back to me in the form of a seller note. You get 70% cash instead of 30% cash, and you get the cash flow from my note. It's a huge win for me because I'm zero cash in this deal, right? So now I've got zero cash. I can deploy my cash somewhere else. You get cash flow, and you get, you know, 2.5 times or, you know, over two times the amount of cash up front that you were looking for. What do you think? And he pauses for a second and he goes, yeah, I would do that. And I said, Mr. Investor, you understand that what I just proposed to you was the same thing as asking you the question of, would you carry 30% in second position? But you just needed a little bit of time to get comfortable with the fact that I know what I'm doing and I want this to be a win-win for us in order for you to understand the outcome. And he laughs and he's like, I like you.
That's really funny.
That's
That's really funny.
Man.
So in these types of framings, like, I do think it comes down to what they want is safety. They want predictability. And you, instead of giving that to them in a contract form, you're giving that to them in a relationship. Like,
I literally said to him,
I'm your safety.
Yeah, I literally said to him, I said, look, you don't have a risk problem. You have a trust problem.
You said it to him.
I literally said that. I go, this is my famous line. I say this all the time. Everybody should use this in negotiations. We are never going to be able to write trust into a contract. So what I need you to do is tell me what it's going to take for us to build that trust together so that I get comfortable with you and you get comfortable with me. Because if we can get comfortable with each other, we can make a deal happen.
Bro, did you learn that from Danny Silk?
I did not, but
No.
I wish I did.
Learned that from years of banking, I'm sure. That's funny,
Man,
dude.
that's really good. That's really good.
My point is, like, in that one actually, and the brilliant part about that one that was kind of lucky is it ended up being that he appointed the person to replace him who happened to be the godfather to my kids. So after this whole conversation ended, he ended up being like really close to like one of our best friends. And so I was like, oh, this is a slam dunk now. I need you to call Todd and ask Todd about me. And then we're cool.
Great.
Like, we're cool. So it was like the nail in the coffin. And now I've got this guy. And so the funniest part about it is at the end of the whole thing, he's like, okay, so now that we're talking creative and it's like all the rules are out the window, he just wants to communicate or explore, ideate. Like, well, what are other ways we can do this? Could we do a rev share on an Airbnb? Could we do this? Could we do that?
Yeah.
What if I finance the whole thing? And like now all of a sudden the checkbook's open, the contract's open, like everything is open because we crossed over that hurdle of risk.
You'd get along really well with our first guest, Chris. He was doing this type
really
of
would,
creative
actually. You should
stuff,
get to know
but with
My camera's freaking out. Sorry, hold on.
Is it we're having such all yesterday,
oh my gosh.
all today. This is ridiculous.
it's following you.
I'm spending the rest of my
You
day
just don't
trying
like
to figure
it.
out my issues.
You don't like
ridiculous.
it. Put your hand next to your face. Yep. And then wait.
That's where it is. Okay,
Yeah.
cool.
Oh,
I'm
that's
back.
funny.
Yeah.
You're lucky.
So Michael and I are using these cameras that are they're like $300 computer, like detached USB cameras. They're on this gimbal and they spin around and follow your face, and they actually look pretty good. They're comparable to streaming with a DSLR, but they do have some quirks. They were intended for Chinese teachers, if the marketing materials tell me anything.
That's funny.
Yeah, the problem that I've had with them, I wonder if you can turn off that feature. The problem I have with them is I talk with my hands, and so sometimes it catches my hand and does this weird thing where it wants
I turned off that feature on mine, so you just have to get the little program. So I I think that this type of creative finance, structured deal thinking is the first step. People need to know what the options are. So I'm glad we're talking about it. The second step is practice and gaining confidence, because it's really hard to sell something you don't believe in or know really well. And the rubber really meets the road in convincing somebody. So I don't like necessarily the feeling or the veneer that we put off with some of these real estate gurus that will like train you on how to do XYZ type of deal and how to make that next cold call, because they're giving off a confidence that's an unfair advantage that isn't really realistic for the average person.
Well, I think, go ahead.
But it can be developed. So it can't be copied, but you can develop your own style. And this is what I learned working with dozens of salespeople who, a lot of them were quite competent, but they had to find their style, not follow a script. They had to find a concept.
Well, I think that's totally fair. And what I've experienced, because I'm a part of a lot of these groups and masterminds and you know, these things. I'm starting my own for free because I want to provide value to people. But the interesting thing that I've observed is you're absolutely right. There's probably in one of my masterminds, there's probably 1,000 what they call rookies. Like, these are guys that are just trying to get into the real estate game. They're learning the business. They're learning the mechanics. They don't have the money, or maybe they do, but they just don't know what to do. And what I'm observing is that they're going to give them 100% of the tools, the methods, the scripts, the stuff, but 95% of those guys are not going to be able to pull it off because they don't want to take the risk. They can't, it doesn't come naturally to them. It's not because they're bad or dumb or whatever. It's just like, to your point, there is an unfair advantage. Like, I have an unfair advantage. I spent 15 plus years in finance. Like, I have an unfair advantage just because I understand the vernacular, let alone how the deals go together and get underwritten and all these things. It would be unfair for me to expect a rookie to be able to just adopt the monologue I just gave on a creative deal and make it sound natural.
Dude,
right?
I think it's way deeper than that. Actually, I think that speaks to the general problem with our podcast, probably your podcast, and every single podcast like this, is everybody listens to these and they're like, yes, I can do something. But they listen to it, then they go home and they think, sweet, I made steps towards doing something. When actually all you did was listen to a damn podcast. You didn't actually take any risk. You didn't put any skin in the game. And you're going to go home and feel good about yourself and be the same person tomorrow and the next day and the next day until you actually try.
Or worse, you're going to go home and spend 6 weeks building a brand, a logo, a business plan, a pro forma.
That's it.
You're going to spend the next 2 months of your life building everything that has nothing to do with launching the business.
If you're talking to a graphic designer and asking them, how should I do my brand? And if you spend more than 2 days on your website, you're doing it wrong. Like, get V1 outside the door, and it should be embarrassing. And then pivot from there.
You've just got to do in real estate. In real estate, it's easy because it's just a deal at a time, right? So I'm always just like, just do a deal. Like, the problem with real estate is the same problem with business, is the same problem with entrepreneurship. The problem is that there's a million ways to make money doing this. You just have to pick one. You have to do a deal. You have to do something, and you're going to find out very quickly what you do and do not like about it. But coming back to that point of like the gurus and the courses and these things, what I'm observing that's been really interesting and could be very beneficial even for people listening to this is because they've put themselves in that environment. If they can't figure it out on their own, they're not stuck because they can partner with somebody who can. Yep. So 95% of these guys they just don't have all the ingredients to go out and do the deal, but they know how to source a good deal, or they know how to, find a private money person, or they've got one of the ingredients. Mm-hmm. And I tell them all, call me. If you got one or two of the ingredients, 1 or 2 out of the 5 of the ingredients,
I like that.
call me and I've probably got the other 3 ingredients and we'll work together. We'll get your first deal done and I'll take all of the pressure off of you having to know how to do it or have the swagger or have all the language or whatever you're missing. I can bring that to the deal and we can work together on a joint venture. And I think that's the beauty of the bigger kind of guru community. It's not about learning to copy their method. It's about getting into the environment where you might be able to get to work with people who can help you get there.
That's a fair point.
I've got a framework that I think of for like starting or improving a business that we might buy into or buy. If we have a funding source, a product market fit, like a concept that the market is actually receiving, and an operator, we have a legitimate scalable business. That's all we need. It's not complicated. What people get stuck on is like, well, how am I going to do this part? And how am I going to do that part? And how am I going to do this part? And you're like, no. Can you fund it? Do you have someone who will lead it? The how is going to be baked into that person's job. So 3 months from now, they'll answer that question that you're stuck on today. But you don't need to answer it today to take action. Funding source, product market fit concept, and an operator.
Dude,
when we find those things,
Yeah.
or 2 of those things, we can get the other one. If I have an operator and a great idea that we can validate in the market, I can go get the money.
Bro,
from
I would
someone.
go further than that. I would say the only thing that this is so bold of me. I'm just going to go out there. The only thing that matters is product market fit. If you can prove that, every single thing else will work itself out.
You can get, an operator will come to the product market fit, the money will
if
come.
you can validate it,
I think you're right. So,
validate it
so
for
let's
less than
talk about
$500,
validation.
and then boom.
Yeah,
So-
in my world, what we say in real estate world, what we say is fine if you can find a legitimate deal. If you find a deal, everything the
actual value is
contractor,
there.
not a problem. The money, not a problem. The deal structure, not a problem. If you've got a motivated seller who's willing to provide a deal, that's all you need. And everybody thinks it's the reverse. Everybody's trying to raise money or save money to like, oh, I got to have money to do my first deal. Money is the easiest part of those transactions.
Yeah.
And if you can't get money, you probably don't have a deal. Like that's, that's the trade-off, right? So I agree with that wholeheartedly.
So something that has product market fit is this boomer retirement wave. Okay, we have
Yeah.
product market fit. Why? There are customers paying for plumbers. There are customers paying for pool installations. There's tile is already being purchased for showers, and there's a boomer running that business. Product market fit is there. The operators are retiring. We already know that people can be promoted into running those companies. So there's somebody who already knows how to do that tile job and customer service, and they're getting paid $30-40 an hour. You can promote that person to operating that regional business. So that exists. The money, we just talked about how it's just creative financing, owner financing, maybe some down payment depending on the deal, but really it's already there. So even if you need a down payment, there's an investor out there like, yeah, you lined up the deal. I'll put your down payment in if you give me 10% of the business or 20 or whatever.
Yeah.
Like that exists. So people should have this bias for action, but only after they can validate the idea. There's too many Shark Tank nerds out there who are like, oh, I want to go on Shark Tank with my big idea. It's going to be huge. Instead of going, no, I have 10 ideas. Any of them could be huge. I'm going to do a process of testing. So like Dustin, you and I have talked about this. Testing a product doesn't have to be rocket science, but it is what will give everybody down the line confidence to work with you. So what are your thoughts on actually, let's say I want to let's do the pool business. Let's say pools in Reading, they're a hot thing, right? And I have a deal in front of me. How do I validate that I can make this business better and give everybody down the line confidence that I can do it?
Before we jump into this, do you want to hear my pool Ponzi scheme?
Oh,
yes,
I
actually,
love Ponzi schemes.
yeah.
Let's do it.
It's so funny you brought up pool. This is obviously, disclaimer, obviously I'm joking. Reading pools, the context here is to get a pool in Reading is obscenely expensive and takes
Like a year,
over
right?
a year.
Yeah.
Yeah, it's dumb. It's craziness. So I had this idea, like, let's start a pool business. Let's say that we can do them for half the price. right? Let's figure out how to figure out how to make it like believable. We'll take $1,000 deposit and we'll do it for 1,000 clients. Okay, you ready for this? So we get $1 million.
You get $1 million.
We get $1 million in capital.
Okay.
We run to Vegas.
Okay, yeah. That's great. It's great. I've seen how you do in Vegas. Let's do it. Yeah, let's go.
Hear
for
me
it.
out.
At least you're generous. So we spend half of it on food, and then
we run hard at the tables. I don't know. You either, depending upon your personality, you either put it all on black. Depending upon your personality, you just do $1 million bet on black, or
will they let you do $1 million bet on one?
Yeah, in the high roller rooms they would.
Oh my god.
And then
the return on that is okay. Keep going. Yeah, keep going.
So we either do that, or you let me run it at the blackjack tables for a couple of days, see what happens. If we double, triple the money, we come back and we go, sorry, Mr. Customers, we decided
here's your
that
deposit
we're not
back.
Here's your deposit back. If we lose the money, we file bankruptcy.
Yep.
Or we just close the business down.
I hate you. I hate everything about this. Yep. Okay, Dustin.
Can we get away with that?
Is supposed to be.
I think so. Not now that I've said it publicly, because now there'd be motive for.
Oh,
the
it's
lawsuit.
fine. We'll
There's
just
lots of
change a
people who
different
do
business.
this.
Like now we're installing,
Fireplaces.
tree lots. Yeah, fireplace. That's better. Yeah, that's great.
We're trying to
Michael,
do this ethical.
that's
you
my
and I,
opportunity.
we have got to do a project together because I feel like we think slightly similarly in a very bad and douchey way that will kind of backfire on
Okay,
us.
but
Sounds
how is
terrible. That sounds like a terrible
Kickstarter?
idea.
I know.
How
you
is Kickstarter not just a Ponzi structure? It is.
Huh.
Like you're going to take deposits on a thing that doesn't exist and the value doesn't exist yet on the promise
true.
that you
So
are going
true.
to fulfill on it, and that is fine.
I think
it's-
maybe the only problem, the primary difference is that we never intended to build the pools.
Yeah, correct.
Okay,
Yes,
so
and
I
you-
actually think that
yeah.
we should build the pools, and I think that it's pretty damn doable. And I think we could front load it. So you get your deposits, and then you get in a contracting company that's from out of state, and you pull them in, and you say, "Hey, we're going to work you really
we have
hard
1,000
for
pools.
6 months.
Will you do them at a discount?
and we're gonna
Yeah.
and I want 20 of your guys, and we're just gonna go
Yeah.
as fast as humanly possible. Pay them, they're out. And if you get them done early, sweet, you get a huge bonus. Something like that. That's what I think
So
we could
in
do.
all seriousness, we have actually, because I own a construction company, fun fact, and so we've actually explored this idea at pretty great length because there's such a huge need for it in Northern California. Because this isn't just a Redding problem. This is a
Without the
Chico,
Vegas part, right?
without the Vegas part, like a legitimate pool company.
Yeah.
Which I've just now lost all credibility for that company.
Yeah, I would do a different company now, Michael.
Yeah, that's fine. Hey, listen, I get points for creativity though.
Yes,
You do. Yeah. you do.
So we've actually explored this very seriously because I agree with you. I think because there's companies like I just got some guy hit me up on Instagram the other day asking for financial advice, and he's a pool builder in Tennessee, and just for as a kind of joke,
This is great.
I was like, how much do you build this 18 by 35 pool for? And he's like, yeah, we could probably do that for like 40,000.
Oh my
and I'm
gosh.
like, will you come to
110
Redding?
here.
hire him.
Yeah.
Hire him. Just literally.
I know. I was like, literally, would you come to Redding if I paid you 60, to do it? And he laughed and he's like, nah, I wish, blah, blah, blah.
But if you had 10 people to pay him 60, hell yeah, he would.
I've got
Yeah.
10 clients for you. Yeah.
And then you could pocket the $10,000 extra, and everybody else is getting a $10,000 discount from what there would have been an $80,000 pool or whatever it is. Yeah, this is genius. You should do
Yeah,
this.
no, it's a great idea. The big reason why we have decided against it for our company is because we're concerned about the liability. Because the thing with pools is you've got long-term warranty issues. A gunite pool cracks, it's a problem, right?
Yeah.
And so because it's not our thing, it just
Isn't
felt like
gunite prefab? Can't you just put like two of them next to each other and just call it a
The
day?
ground shifts. It's like a
Yeah.
big. It's
So the
not
prefab
safe.
pools,
Yeah.
the problem with the prefab pools is they actually, when the ground shifts, they actually pop up out of the ground. And so that's a whole different issue.
Yeah.
The gunite pools crack. The vinyl pools are garbage, and so we don't want to be a part of that.
Okay, but
so.
vinyl swimming ponds. This is what I mean. You've been to my house. I've got
Oh.
this little lake behind my house. It's a 6-acre pond. It's nice, but I don't want to swim in it. So we have a slope between the house and the pond. And what I've been planning is a series, is a three swimming pond series. So a hot tub swimming area first that's heated, that cascades down into a kid swimming area that's safe, that I don't have to gate because it's only 2 feet or 3 feet deep, and cascades into the bigger swimming one that you in California you have to gate off. And it would look like an infinity edge off the sunset with the pond behind it. So it already is more preferable aesthetically, but cost-wise, it is as easy as getting the tractors in there and having some interesting swimming pond shapes. And then you put in the heavy-duty vinyl that they would do in a koi pond, and you might have to service it every 7 years, but the cost
Yeah, so
is
I don't
crazy.
know. So I'm actually doing a vinyl pool on one of my flips right now. And so I know a little bit about it. I don't know how it would hold up with, because a lot of the vinyl pools still have a concrete shell. So
this is different in that it's a thick, like a koi pond. So you've seen koi ponds where the black. Yeah. So this just can fit without concrete and be fine. And every now and then you're going to have to tear it out with a tractor and then replace it. That's the maintenance cost. But
and
you're not spending $100,000 up front.
It's how much?
I said you're not spending $100,000 up front. You're probably spending 20 after you get the filters and everything you need. The tractor work.
Yeah, I mean, and the nice thing about that is if you're doing it in like the form of like a swim, because you guys are on a farm, right? So like you could do a more natural swimming pond, like it's more looks like a pond. You do like a black vinyl
fit
liner.
The aesthetic. Yep.
Yeah, it'll totally work. It's when you see somebody who's actually poured like a rectangle pool and then you put vinyl in it, it looks like, it
looks terrible. Agree.
It just is chintzy and like, you just don't want it.
So,
guys,
back to validating this. Oh, we got to end.
No, we shouldn't end. We need to talk about ideas. This has been really fun, but we have to like shotgun a few ideas. Also, Michael, you have like a segment on your show that's like things you like and don't like or whatever it is. What is it?
Yeah, I do a segment on my show called Agree, Disagree. That could be fun. We could do some of those. Do you want to
I want to do that. I want to do that. And then I want to drop a few ideas. Let's do both of those.
All right. Quick, no context, no nothing. Agree, disagree. The housing market is going to crash. It's 2008 all over again.
No, I disagree strongly.
Disagree.
Okay.
It'll trickle down slowly, and it will dip, and then it'll go right back up. But we have way better regulations in place than we did in 2008.
No context. Biden is a cyborg.
Agree.
Disagree.
We are in the middle of a recession.
Agree.
Disagree.
A recession is coming.
Agree. Not in the
Still
middle.
here.
We're somewhere in the middle between the middle and
Okay.
coming.
Cash is king.
Disagree.
Ooh.
Okay.
Agree.
Oh,
Perceived cash is king? I don't know.
I'm split. I can't. I'm right on the line, buddy.
Okay. The election was stolen. Just kidding. Don't answer that. AI is going to take over the world.
Disagree so strongly.
Disagree.
Okay. Here's the last one. It's easier to make more money than it is to save it or shave it from your budget.
Agree.
Can I give context? Do we get
No.
context? Agree.
Okay. I guess you can. It's your show. You can do whatever you want.
All right.
Oh, what's your context? What's your context for that, Kendall?
Oh man, I mean, this is my whole life. I still am deeply in debt. I started in debt. I'm still in debt. I'm in more debt. But
We'll end right there.
my expenses are in, like, they keep going up. I keep making babies, and you start pretty poor, especially in California when you're 19 years old and you get pregnant at, I think 21 is when we had our first kid. So we've just had increasing expenses the whole time. I've never been able to catch up, but my income has outpaced my survival because there's a fire under my ass. Not because I'm better or special, but because I have had to, and that tends to snowball. So now it's gotten easier because if I lose what I'm doing now, Michael will hire me for something. There's always someone, if you didn't burn your bridges, who will give you a great opportunity. But I trust time to increase my income more than I trust my ability to go figure out how to have lower medical bills.
A piece of advice I got early on in my life that I used to carry around that I no longer agree with was that you could never out earn stupid. And the point that was made, like it's super catchy. That sounds like a good point. But the truth is my life has disproven that over and over and over again. I am better. I say this all the time because I get, I'm kind of developing a reputation as like the money guy. And it's kind of always been that way because of my banking background, right? But I'm now realizing and saying more often, like I am far better at making money than I am managing it. Like I am not probably your best source on budgeting advice. Like I know how to budget, but like I'm way better at making money than managing it.
So I tend to look at it.
Hold on. I get a chance to give some context here. Okay, here's what I think about this. I think it is easier to save meaningless amounts of money, stuff that won't change your life or change how you live besides a Friday night, right? Every now and again. You
think?
Yeah, it's really easy to do that. Yeah, absolutely. It's so easy to save enough money to go to a fancy dinner and feel like you did something that means something in your life. But I think you're lying to yourself. I think it's harder, but it's way better to build real wealth. It's impossible to save your way to real wealth.
I agree with that. But I think it's harder than you're giving it credit to drop Starbucks off of your daily routine. Yeah. Because if it wasn't harder,
to pick up the phone and close one deal.
Yeah, because if it wasn't harder, people would do it.
I don't know. There's a real thing. So, we talk about all these fun and business ideas. We should start this. We should start that. There's a reality that like a lot of it is just really freaking hard, and it's going to take a lot of failures and a lot of phone calls and being okay with failing. And it's going to take maybe a year, maybe 6 months, maybe 2 years, maybe 5. But eventually, at the end of those 5 years, I'll bet basically anything I have on it is you will be a millionaire. For sure, if you try actually as hard as you can. But if you save your way that many years, you will not. For sure you will not. But you'll have probably a few more Friday nights out in between then and there.
So your point, if I can summarize, make sure I understand. Your point is it's easier to save $500 a month. It's harder to make $500 a month, but learning to make $500 a month is actually the thing that's going to make you wealthy.
Yeah, you're going to lie to yourself. If you save yourself, I was thinking like $250 or something like that, Friday night out.
Yeah, whatever.
But yeah, you're going to lie to yourself, and you're going to feel like you're doing really good. But $1,000 in your bank account is fine, but it's not going to change your life. 25,000, that's going to change something. 250 for sure, that'll change something. 2 million, you're doing great.
I like it.
I cut you off, Kendall. I'm so sorry. Please keep going.
No. I was gonna get your thoughts on something different, but I think to wind down this episode, we need to give out some really specific ideas. So I'm gonna push us here for not general, hey, somebody should do XYZ. I don't want the Uber for bellhops. Some type of we've talked a lot of weeds on this episode, and something that I believe actually helps people is when you can point out how money is already flowing. So there's a mental framework that I kind of ponder on probably weekly. That's where is the money flowing with margin? Then what are the steps that money goes through? So just don't think about what business you can do. Think about where the money's going and where it's coming from. So before we were talking about the pool company, we can go back and use that as an example. You guys talked about, we talked about doing a basically a large scale pool company. But what about all the doodads that the pool company buys? So we know there's a client who buys. We know there's a realtor who refers. There are referrals. There's a Google search in there. There's options. Somebody sells this type of stone for that thing. There are so many pieces in that value chain of the pool itself. If you can just find the obscure thing with high margin and go compete on that, it could be the grout lines. It doesn't matter. It could be, I fill up your water, then drain it and test for cracks. I do a test after whatever it is. I want your ideas on that.
I buy your warranties. How about that? I buy the liability. Can you do that? That'd be awesome.
Ooh, there you go. That's not a bad one. So you buy the warranties. So you'd have to go underwrite that.
Yeah. So Michael built his company, and all I do is say, hey, I will assume the responsibility.
Dude, actually, actually, so the insurance company for the warranties of these professional
Think about it.
services. So what you would get very good at in that exact business is understanding dirt types, understanding like the different geographies, like elevation plays into that. And like, no joke, the topography.
Yeah, I can
of
measure
how
risk,
this
and
works.
Michael's like, I don't care about the risk. I just want to be
Yep.
done. When I'm done, I want to
the
be
pool
done.
guy, yep.
It's in, I'm done.
Yeah,
like
so the
that one.
challenge with that idea is going to be getting me to believe that you're not going to go bankrupt or AWOL when these warranties come up.
Michael,
Right.
I'm good in Vegas. You've seen me. I will be fine. Okay.
Okay, good point. Good point. I like
I mean-
this idea. I actually do like this idea. And what I like about it, because as you're talking, Kendall, I'm thinking about like all the intricacies. Because the trick to me would be finding the obscure line
Yep.
items that are not tremendously difficult or oversaturated. So like grout, for example, using the grout line, like that would be a bad play in my opinion, because you're
there's
going to
so
have
many
a
people who do
really
it.
hard time competing with the major grout companies. Like that's not a war that you probably want to go up against. But to Dustin's point, finding like a obscure add-on or something that's not as competitive, like that seems like a no-brainer to me. And I bet you could charge 10% of the cost of the pool for that warranty.
That would be pretty
a big
damn
one.
good odds too, because it's not 1 in 10 that fail. It's probably 1 in 50.
So I got you. I've got one. So this is
But
so
that's yeah. Keep going. Sorry.
my shtick is kind of like, look, I don't need to learn how to do this myself. I need to hire right, and I need to lead well. So if I go to these contractors, send out a bunch of cold emails tomorrow, and say, look, we do electrical work for pool installations. We're the only ones in town that are exclusively electricians for that. I can go hire an electrician with experience doing that for pools, because it's different. It's different than running the wiring and doing the schematics for a house or a commercial building. So you just pick that niche. You can usually charge about 50% more when you're a niche of a niche, like in services. You can just say, this is my specialty. Look, if you don't want the specialty, I get it. Go somewhere
Yeah.
cheaper. But this is all we do.
In-home audio is a great example of that.
It is a great example of that. Yes. In-home audio and commercial audio when you're actually running the cables.
And what's funny about the in-home audio play, not to digress, but what's funny about the in-home audio play is it's all low voltage. So it's actually easier than being an electrician, but they charge 2 or 3 times as much.
So I've got another one, the stamping on the concrete for the actual part that you walk on, right? That's a design thing. So a lot of pool companies probably just have like 2-3 options based on the material you put in. But if I just bought a $100,000 pool, I kind of want you to like bring me samples and show me, I want this finish or that finish or this finish. So you would just provide that one service, not to the customer, but to the pool contractor. Like, look, when you get to this part, subcontract me for this part. I'll bring samples by, Mrs. White is going to look over my samples, and you're going to make 10% more on the project because I do this custom finish.
Yep.
It's not a bad idea. It's not a bad idea.
Micro elements of the value chain.
Yeah. Look, I get permits for pools.
Yep.
I am the permit guy for the entire North State for pools.
Yeah,
Call me when you get there.
another example of this idea is taking a trade line or an element of the value chain and changing it or breaking it down differently. So an example of that would be home design. So you can go to an architect and you'll pay $30,000 to $50,000 for a set of plans for a custom home. Pretty common. And those plans come fully engineered, ready to be submitted for permit. Well, now there's a whole subset because there's actually 2 elements in the architectural process. There's the design and there's the engineering. And so what's happened is that there's that subset has been broken down into 2 trade lines. So instead of going to an architect, I can actually go to an architectural designer, have them design me the home, do all the design elements, and they're building it with architectural structure in mind, but they don't have the architectural stamp to actually make it validated or engineered to be submitted to permit. So then it has to be sent to a person who just does engineering. And so you've created 2 steps in the process. It's actually normally less expensive than just going through an architect, but you've got 2 people making more money than the one person who is doing all of it, and because they've created a subset of one trade. And there's pros and cons of that. Obviously architects are a little bit more advanced, and there's generally some more bells and whistles. But the point is that that's another example of taking an industry or a sub trade and being able to break it down even further.
Engineering stamping, like stamped by an engineer, a professional engineer, is such a marketable skill that engineers tend to not be entrepreneurial types, so they don't always make the best freelancers or solo contractors, and you see some inner conflict in those types of people. But it is so marketable to go, hey Michael, I'll stop by your house. I do house calls. I'm $175 for my stamp, and I give you just a pencil drawing. Before you put in this beam, I'm going to give you a pencil drawing that I know they'll pass at City Hall. They know me, they know my stamp, and they know my pencil drawings. Takes me about 15 minutes or 20 minutes because this is what I do. But you would have to wait weeks, and you would have to come bring it to a professional firm or pay somebody very expensive to do actual the whole project.
If we were just looking at the beam, like it was like a renovation or something, that could work. But the whole project,
no, I'm talking about that person could get into $175 an hour work on their own. They could probably clear $250,000 this year doing house calls on beams, calls on concrete.
I think it's possible. I think the hang up, like if you're an engineer listening to this, probably what you're thinking right now is every time they stamp that plan, they're taking liability. They're saying, I've validated that this is structurally sound. And so I think that the apprehension for engineers on that would be they want to mull stuff over 100 times before actually stamping it. So I don't know. I mean, it's not a bad idea.
Back to that conflict, engineer versus entrepreneur.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah. Exactly. Yeah. And, and there's probably, to your point, I mean, here's another example. I have a buddy that does, was a VP of construction for a large condo builder. They build condos all over the country. And they basically found that when they streamline the condos the way that they build them, that it's like 1 out of every 47 condos that are sold ends in a major lawsuit. Ooh. And so they've literally created a system by which they build in the cost of legal to protect them. So instead of fixing the problem, they just said it's cheaper for us to build legal expenses into our price and deal with 1 in 50 lawsuits.
Hospitals also do this on your body.
Oh my God.
Hospitals do what?
They do the same thing fixing your body.
Yeah, because half people don't
actually
pay.
Do better work. We're just going to increase the cost to cover legal.
Yep.
There's so many shady things about hospitals and how they bill. That's a huge one.
Hey, speaking of hospital billings, Dustin.
Good.
Family member of mine gets paid $300K a year in an ER, doing doctor stuff. And he bills, I think it's $13 million a year for his labor, not anything else that the hospital does. Just his labor billings.
He keeps 10% of what he bills.
No, I think it's less than that. No.
He really does.
3%. It's tiny. So what they do is they charge the insurance companies based on billable hours, but it's based on certain coded procedures. He is given bonuses. I mean, he hates this. He is trying to retire so hard. He's given bonuses on coding. This was a more complex problem than it actually was. So he can bill the insurance company for a problem that he barely fixed, right? It was kind of that. And they are putting cash incentives in front of doctors. He doesn't do it ethically, but he's like, look, other people are out earning me because they will literally lie or white lie or gray area on this to get the billables up for the hospital. And they are making bonuses and commissions on it.
This makes me so mad because I'm going through an insurance debacle right now as I'm shifting insurances. And Like literally like a medication that I need for my like life is just all of a sudden $1,100 a month. And I'm like,
It's terrible.
it's just such a, and I literally think about like, yeah, like I bit the bullet and bought it because I can. I'm thinking about the probably hundreds of thousands or millions of people.
Most people cannot do that.
That cannot.
Dude, that's
do
what
it.
I'm saying.
And
I said the idea a long time ago. It's medicine for fish. Michael, did you hear about this idea? I want to start a medicine for
Do it again.
fish brand. I'm serious. This is legit. And I'm going to get made fun of for this. This is a real idea. Medicine for fish. It's just human medicine, but we've rebranded it for fish, so it doesn't have to go through all the bullshit regulations and
We don't
just make sure
certify
it's
it.
safe,
You just-
and we can
at your own
charge a
risk.
real normal number that average human beings can
Be
afford.
careful with your fish. Don't
Yeah,
kill your
well,
fish
be careful with the
this
fish.
medicine.
Also, some crazy people use it for, this Alzheimer's things. But
you know,
it's for fish.
I like it. I like the rogue nature of it. There's a safer version of this that I think Mark Cuban is trying.
Yeah, he's trying, but he's still stuck. I mean, he can't do everything. He can't even get insulin.
On certain
like that's a
things.
big deal.
Yeah.
Insulin.
Right.
I mean,
Insulin for fish.
Insulin for fish. I like it. I mean, it'll never work for a
dude,
litany
I
of
actually think
reasons.
it would work. It's a giant middle finger to the health industry, and I think it's
Yeah, but
on
the
purpose in a
problem
good way.
is that the people. The problem is the people that won't let it work are the people that provide the medication. So you'd have to create like your own
It's for fish.
chemical company or pharmaceutical company that would probably get shut down because the pharma companies are in cahoots with the government. So I just see it as like
They
that.
have so much
It's not that it
reach.
wouldn't
Yeah.
work because people wouldn't buy it. It's that it wouldn't work because it would get blocked by big pharma.
I don't know. So I have a doctor friend, and I was going on a big trip, and I wanted to get sleepy medicine for a flight. I said, hey, what should I get? He's like, get this. And he's like, actually, don't get that. Get this for allergies. It's the same exact medicine, but it's 4 times cheaper because it's not regulated for sleep. It's regulated for allergies. We're using the same logic. Same thing. I think it could work.
Hey man, Kendall can get his generic Viagra for fish.
Yeah, how much do you spend a month on that, Kendall?
The price keeps going up the more kids I have, so there's like a commission arrangement here.
Is that because it gets harder and harder the more kids you have?
Yeah, I'm glad that the swelling of the
Softer and
expenses.
softer.
Oh God.
Softer and softer. That honestly would happen to me. Like every time I thought that this might result in another child, I'd be like, "Uh-oh, honey, get the little blue pill."
Oh my God. This is
My
so
brain
sad.
is
I had so
messing
many
with my
ideas I
head
wanted to
now.
pitch to you. I had so many questions for Michael, so we're just gonna have to do this again.
I love doing these with you guys. It's so much fun, and it's been such an inspiration to me and my project. And so, anytime, I would love it.
So if you liked Michael today on IdeaDrop, you can check out @DeadPresidents on Instagram and the TikTok, or catch his long form show. I don't know. Look up on Spotify, Dead Presidents.
Yeah, it hasn't. We haven't dropped it yet. It'll drop in a couple of weeks here, but yeah,
Cool.
it'll be Dead Presidents on all the podcast platforms that Dustin's going to help me figure out. So
Oh,
There it
he's
is.
such a nice guy.
he
What a
is such a
nice
nice
guy.
guy. So, all right, kisses and smooches.
Bye bye.
Ciao.
See ya.